welcome back to the Explainer. When we talk about annuities, there's one term that's absolutely central to the whole thing, the annuitant. If you want to make sure your retirement income is rock solid, you've got to understand this role. So let's dive in and figure out what it's all about. Yeah, this is the big one, isn't it? The question that keeps a lot of people up at night. Now, an annuity is one answer to this. It's designed to give you that income for life. But, and this is a big but, for that to work, you have to know who's who in the contract. We've got to get the right money to the right person at the right time, and it all starts with the main character.
All right, so let's meet the star of our show. Seriously, in any annuity contract, everything, and I mean everything, revolves around the annuitant.
Okay, so what is an annuitant? The simplest way to think about it is this. The annuitant's life is the measuring stick for the whole deal. The insurance company looks at their age, their life expectancy, all that stuff to figure out how the payments are going to work. And most importantly, they're the one who actually gets paid.
So let's break this down. The annuitant is the whole reason this financial security exists in the first place, right? Their life expectancy is what drives the math behind the payments. But their main job? It's pretty simple, really. They're the one who gets that steady, predictable income stream. That's the goal.
But, the annuitant isn't acting alone here. It's not a one-person show. An annuity contract has a whole cast of characters, and it's super important to know who they are. So let's meet the rest of the players.
First up, we've got our star, the annuitant. They're the recipient. Then we have the owner. Now, this is the person who's really in the driver's seat. They buy the contract. They make the decisions. They've got all the power. Think of them as the controller.
And last but not least, we've got the beneficiary. Their part in the story comes a little later on. They're the inheritor, the one who's set up to get any money that's left over when the annuitant passes away.
Okay, so this next part is really, really important. The annuitant versus the owner. This is where things can get a little fuzzy for people. But we need to make this distinction crystal clear, because getting it right is absolutely vital.
You know what? If you only remember one thing from this whole explainer, let it be this. The annuitant gets the payments, but the owner holds the power. The owner is the one who can change things, take money out, or name who gets what later. The annuitant's job, just to get that income.
This chart really lays it all out, doesn't it? Look at that. The owner has all the financial control, while the annuitant's life is what the payment math is based on. Now, a lot of the time, the owner and the annuitant are actually the same person. Totally normal. But separating these roles can be a really powerful financial planning tool. For example, think about a parent who wants to provide income for a child with special needs. The parent could be the owner, keeping total control, while the child is the annuitant, ensuring they have that income for life. See how useful that is? Okay. So we've got the owner sorted. Now let's talk about the beneficiary. This one is all about the what happens next. It's about what happens after the annuitant's lifetime.
Honestly, the key difference here is just timing. It's that simple. The annuitant gets paid while they're alive. The beneficiary, their role doesn't even start until after the annuitant has passed on, and only if there's money left in the contract.
And again, this table just makes it super clear. The annuitant is the focus of the contract while they're living. The beneficiary is kind of like the successor in waiting, They've been picked by the owner to get whatever is left. They have zero control, zero claim until after the annuitant is gone.
All right, so we know who gets the money, and we know when they get it. But what about the practical side? How does this hit your wallet? Let's talk about everybody's favorite topic, taxes.
So here's the main thing to get about taxes with annuities. Each payment you receive is actually made up of two parts, a chunk of your original investment and a chunk of the earnings or the gains. And the good news is you don't get taxed on your own money coming back to you. That's your basis, and it's returned tax-free. You only pay tax on the growth part, the gains. And just so you know, it's taxed as ordinary income, not the lower capital gains rate.
Let's make this real. Say you put in $100,000 and it grew to $150,000. That's a $50,000 gain, right? Well, as you start getting your payments, only the part of each payment that comes from that 50 grand of growth is going to be taxed. The rest, the part that's your original investment, comes back to you completely tax-free. So when you boil it all down, it's about understanding these three distinct jobs, right? You've got the owner, who's in control, the annuitant, who receives the income, and the beneficiary, who inherits what's left. Getting those roles straight is what makes sure your whole financial plan actually works the way you want it to, for you and for the people you care about. And that really brings us to the most important question of all, one you need to ask yourself. In your own financial story, who's playing each part? Is it clear who the owner is, who the annuitant is, who the beneficiary is? Because getting these roles right, well, that's the foundation for protecting your retirement and securing your legacy.